Okay, forget everything you learned in business school for a second. What if I told you that the real secrets to modern management, to team building, and to long-term strategy were actually hidden inside classic video games from the 90s? Well, today, we're going to unlock the surprising business wisdom that's been baked into Japanese role-playing games all along. Now, I know that might sound like a bit of a stretch, but stick with me here. These games, they're not just entertainment. They're these incredibly complex simulations that force you, the player, to make really tough strategic decisions about resources, about personnel, and about future planning. They are essentially interactive case studies for how to run an organization. So the key to unlocking all this wisdom is this really powerful mental tool called analogical reasoning. It's basically the skill of seeing the hidden patterns that connect things that seem totally unrelated. And today, we're going to use it to peel back the cover and reveal the secret management textbooks hiding inside some of the most beloved games ever made. All right, first up, let's start at the micro level. How do you build a winning team? Well, it turns out it's a lot like putting together an adventuring party for a quest. It is all about getting the right mix of skills for the job that's ahead of you.
I want you to think about the job system in a game like Final Fantasy V. See, a character isn't just a knight forever. No, they can master that role, learn its abilities, and then become a black mage, carrying over all those powerful skills from their old job. In business terms, you're not just hiring a person for one role. You are curating a portfolio of abilities that can evolve over time.
And what's wild is that this game mechanic perfectly mirrors a really cutting-edge HR strategy called the skill-based organization, or SBO. The idea is, instead of having rigid job descriptions, SBOs see their employees as these collections of skills that you can mix and match to solve new problems. Final Fantasy V was basically simulating this 30 years before it became a buzzword. And this, right here, just shows you how perfectly it maps, one-to-one. You've got your strong knight, the one protecting the party. That's your sales team, right on the front lines. The black mage, hitting enemies with these powerful, focused spells. That's your R&D department, your technical specialists. And of course, the absolutely crucial white mage or cleric, the one healing the team, that's your HR and support staff, keeping the whole organization healthy and in the fight. So this leads to a really critical question. I mean, in the game, if your party was just made up of fighters, you get wiped out so fast, right? You've got no support, no healing. And it turns out this exact vulnerability shows up in a lot of real-world organizations. So, the whole point is balance. You look at traditional Japanese companies, they often focus on generalists, which is great for covering gaps. But they can lack those dedicated healer roles, strong mental health and HR support. On the other hand, Western companies, with their deep specialists, can suffer from that not-my-job silo effect. The game teaches us something fundamental. You absolutely need both your specialized attackers and your dedicated healers to survive for the long haul. Okay, so we've built our team. Now let's zoom out a bit and look at the big picture. We're talking long-term strategy, knowledge transfer, and how you get your entire organization ready for that final boss. In Romancing Saga 2, your main character, the Emperor, will eventually die in battle. It's inevitable, but it's not game over. Instead, a new heir takes the throne, and they inherit the skills and the knowledge of all the previous generations. See, the individual is temporary, but the organization, the empire, it just keeps getting stronger and stronger over time. This is just a perfect playable model of a famous knowledge management theory called the Seki model. It basically explains how organizations create and institutionalize knowledge, how they move from just a bunch of shared experiences to a systematic, learnable process that anyone can pick up. I mean, just look at this breakdown. The team fighting together? That's socialization. When a character suddenly has that flash of inspiration and glimmers a brand new technique in the middle of a battle, that's externalization. Then, the skill gets saved in the dojo for everyone to learn. That is combination. And finally, the new emperor learning that skill, that's internalization. The game is literally a perfect simulation of how an organization learns and grows. All right, now for a totally different strategic lesson. And this one comes from an all-time classic, Chrono Trigger. The core loop of that game isn't just about reacting to what's happening now. No, it's about seeing a catastrophic future and then actively going back in time to change the past and create a better outcome. This entire process is actually a super powerful strategic planning technique. It's called backcasting. So instead of trying to forecast forward from today, you define the future you want, and then you work backwards from there to figure out the exact steps you need to take to make it happen. Turns out Chrono, Marl, and Luca were master corporate strategists, and they didn't even know it.
So, we've covered team building, we've covered long-term strategy. Now let's talk about the really crucial stuff, the soft skills. How do great leaders actually build consensus, motivate their teams, and foster real, genuine growth?
So get this. In the game Triangle Strategy, you're the leader, but you don't actually have the final say. All the major decisions are decided by a vote among your key advisors. The only power you have is influence. You have to go out, gather evidence, and have these one-on-one conversations to try and persuade them to see things your way.
And what that game mechanic is doing is it's creating a perfect simulation of something called deliberative democracy. It's this idea that the best decisions don't come from top-down commands. No, they come from reasoned debate and building consensus. The game literally forces you to be a true servant leader, one who has to rely on logic and trust, not just authority.
Now, Fire Emblem Three Houses takes this whole idea even a step further. In that game, you're a teacher, and your direct reports, your students, they won't learn a single thing unless their motivation gauge is full. And you can't just order them to be motivated, you have to build it through personal interaction, sharing meals, giving them gifts, and sometimes just listening to their concerns.
And that motivation gauge? Well, it's a brilliant stand-in for what modern management science calls psychological safety. Research from places like Google has proven that the single biggest predictor of a high-performing team is whether its members feel safe enough to take risks, to ask questions, to be vulnerable. The game makes this abstract concept totally tangible. If there's no safety, there's no growth, period.
So after diving into all these different games and all these different management theories, what's the ultimate lesson here? What's the secret weapon we can actually take away from all this?
Well, it really all boils down to these three core principles. First, contingency. Just like you'd change your party for a fire cave versus an ice palace, the best business strategy always depends on the specific challenge you're facing. Second, institutional knowledge. Wisdom has to be embedded in the organization's systems, like that dojo in Romancing Saga, so it can outlast any single person. And third, dialectics. A council that argues, like in Triangle Strategy, isn't a problem to be solved, it's a resource for finding an even better solution.
And that brings us right back to where we started, analogical reasoning. See, the real power here isn't just knowing about these games. It's the ability to see the underlying systems at play and then apply them somewhere else. So the final question I have is for you. What complex systems are hiding in plain sight in your life, in your hobbies, just waiting to be understood and applied? Thanks for watching.